welcome everyone. My name is Narina Visser and I'm the moderator for today's webinar titled Understanding Volatility and the Changing Landscape of Wealth. Thank you for joining us. Before I introduce the speakers, there are a few housekeeping items I'd just like to cover. At the bottom of the webinar screen, you should see a toolbar. You can use this toolbar to access a range of applications such as the speaker biographies, additional resources and technical support as well. You can click on any application and it should open on your screen. All of these applications are resizable and movable, so feel free to move them around to get the most out of your screen space. I also want to ask you to please submit any questions you may have for the speakers throughout the webinar via the Q&A box, and we'll try to get to as many as we possibly can. You don't have to wait until our initial discussion is over before you post questions. You're welcome to do so at any time. For the best viewing experience, we recommend that you close any programs or browser sessions you might have running in the background. It'll certainly help to conserve your bandwidth. The webcast is being streamed through your computer, so for the best audio quality, please make sure that your computer speakers or your headset volume is turned up. Some networks may cause slides to advance more slowly than others, so it's possibly worthwhile to log off your VPN. If you have that, can we recommend connected at the moment. If you find that the slides are behind, you can push F5 on your keyboard. On a Mac, that would be Command R on your Mac, and that will refresh the page. We certainly value your feedback, so please do complete the pop-up survey at the end of the webinar. But yes, without further ado, let me introduce you to the speakers. As I mentioned, their biographies are in full at the bottom of the screen also, and I certainly encourage you to go and look at that. But let's start with our first speaker, Willem Ferrand, who joined Refinitiv, who was still at the time Thomson Reuters, in 2013 from eVestment, which is now part of NASDAQ. Prior to his current role at Refinitiv, he was an account manager for Refinitiv's UK wealth accounts for 6 years, and then he won the award for the top sales achiever in Europe North. William speaks many languages, in fact, English, French, Italian, and German, and he holds a Master of Arts in European Union Studies from the University of Edinburgh. Next up, we have Stuart McCulloch, who's joining us by phone line today rather than via webinar. Stuart is the Senior Executive Officer at the Fry Group. He's a market head there for the Fry Group in the Middle East. And with 29 years experience, Stuart is highly regarded in financial services as a professional with a long heritage of work both in the UK and the Middle East. Before joining the Fry Group, Stuart held the roles of Head of Operations at the Bank of Singapore and Dubai, Head of Operations Middle East at Coutts. Before moving to Dubai, Stuart worked for Standard Life, Halifax Financial Services and Prudential in the UK, gaining significant knowledge and experience in financial products and services to advise clients on their tax, their wealth and their estate planning. And last but certainly not least, Dr. Adrian Saville, who's the Chief Executive at Cannon Asset Managers. He holds a string of academic qualifications, including a Bachelor of Arts, an MCom and a PhD in Economics, which he completed at the University of Natal in South Africa in 1997. And for this, he was awarded the Economic Society of South Africa's Founders Medal. He's a UNESCO laureate and a matriculant of Linacre College in Oxford. He's completed programs in investing and competitive strategy at New York's Columbia University and Harvard Business School in Boston. In 1994, while completing his doctorate in economics, Adrian formed an investment vehicle that became the forerunner to Cannon Asset Managers, which he founded in 1998. In 2017, Bidvest Financial Services acquired Cannon Asset Managers, and today, Adrian serves as Chief Executive at Cannon Asset Managers. In addition to his role at Cannon, Adrian also lectures extensively. He has lectured at the University of Witwatersrand, the University of KwaZulu-Natal, the University of Pretoria, the London School of Business, the Kelly School of Business, the Rotterdam School of Management, and the Estonian Business School. He's held a professorship of economics, finance and strategy at the Gordon Institute of Business since 2003, where he teaches in the fields of macroeconomics, investment finance and strategy. Adrian has received a long list of teaching awards during his career, and he's presented to global audiences across both developed markets and emerging markets, and of course, right here in Africa as well. So clearly, you see that you've got a very distinguished lineup of speakers today, and it's my privilege to welcome them today to this conversation. And I look forward to explore the topic today under the broader banner of moving beyond turbulence. And there's no doubt that we've had our fair share of turbulence in this very short but very impactful 2020 to date. But you know what? Today's session is intended to be a conversation with you, the audience. So to get you involved at the outset, I'm going to kick this off with a polling question. So please have a look at the polling question on screen as it comes up now. And I want to ask you, what percentage of the office do you see working from the office, from the physical office, 5 days a week in future in a post-COVID world? And we made it fairly easy for you. You can choose between 0%, 50%, or 100%. So please give us your insight in terms of what do you think your world of work will look like in a post-COVID-19 world. Just going to give it a few seconds so we can get the results. And as soon as those results are available, we'll bring that up on screen for you. There we go. Well, you know what? If nothing, we are certainly very consistent in the response here. And I guess it's a little bit of saying that it's not nothing, but it's also not everything. So I've got to go with whatever is in between. So whether that is 50% or 40% or 70% indeed, I think what we are clearly demonstrating here is that we certainly expect life and world of work to be very different post-COVID, much like we're also experiencing with this webinar today. So exactly what form and shape that will take on, time will tell. But we're going to explore some of those issues or those topics today. But I'm going to kick off, William, I would like to ask you first and foremost. There's certainly been a lot of reactions that we've seen coming out of this. What are some of the good and the bad reactions to this crisis that you've seen from your perspective?
Thanks, Nerina. I think when I look at the reactions, I'm going to be looking sort of from a business perspective rather than a sort of humanitarian or anything like that perspective. And I think it really boils down in the first instance to preparedness beforehand. I mean, there've been lots of memes flying about with COVID. I saw quite a funny meme early on, which was what was the biggest sort of catalyst to your digitalization? Was it your CTO? Was it your chief digital officer? Was it potentially a big consultant, or was it COVID with COVID tick? But so I think that how prepared companies were before really showed up, you know, when things started. And an example I had was the week just before lockdown, I was traveling to Paris in France, which, you know, probably puts me down as one of the bad reactions to COVID. But when I was traveling there, I met a client, and I went to her office, and it was a relatively senior client in a French bank, and she was taking up her tower block to sort of put in a taxi and take home because she didn't have a laptop in her office. And because she was working with all these wires and pulling everything down, and it was a day that, you know, the markets were incredibly turbulent. She had to ask me, she had to say, you know, what's our share price today? I don't know what my own company's share price is. And I think that's when it hit home that, you know, some companies just were completely unprepared for this. And, you know, fortunately, we were able to help her and sort of get our app installed onto her iPad. And once she got home, you know, she eventually got set up. But I think some of these companies that were so unprepared spent, you know, the first month, 6 weeks, just trying to get to business continuity, just really sort of fighting to keep the lights on and keep things going. And, you know, fortunately now, pretty much all the companies we work with are sort of open and used to it and sort of managing to go forwards. On the other hand, we've seen some good reactions and some people that are taking a lot of positives out of it. I spoke to an investor who made quite a funny comment, but they said that actually they quite liked getting a nice quick update with their advisor, not having to sit around having a long cup of tea and some cake and all of this, and that they could sort of get to the point quicker. And I think the fact that advisors don't necessarily have to travel anymore, that they can get updates to their investors quicker, that they can maybe do this digitally, that it actually frees up a bit more time to sort of be more proactive and sort of give a better service to their clients. So we've seen a complete mix, I guess.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right that, as you say, the first couple of days or maybe even weeks was a little bit of crisis mode, just sort of physically getting people set up to be able to operate. And now we're starting to see people sort of settling into a different type of rhythm. So Adrian, certainly I think this is an important time for firms to be able to diversify and to differentiate themselves even more in a world that is highly uncertain. What do you think are some of the new questions that we need to be asking? What are some of the questions that clients are asking in this world, and what are some of the questions that asset managers need to ask? What type of approaches is different now than what it might have been in the past?
Nerina, I think in the here and now, the immediate concern has been around the safety of people and the safety of performance. Very often when you go through a due diligence process in the investment world, they talk about the 3 Ps, philosophy, performance, and people. And you can order those in whatever sequence you think, is the direction of causality. But in the heart of crisis, my experience, not my sense, my experience has been that it's really about 2 things. Are our people safe? And our people is our investment team, our operations, our administration, and our people is our clients. And then no business operates in a vacuum. We operate in a society. And so, what's going on then in our broader society? And there is no environment that has been unaffected. It's really just the degree of impact that varies. So I think that's, the one issue that has been at the heart of our concern or considerations. And then the second is after people or alongside people is looking after portfolio performance. And one of my firm beliefs is that in our investment philosophy and approach is that the freest lunch, possibly only the only free lunch you get in investing, is diversification. And certainly diversification has been a very valuable component of our investment performance through this environment. But more to your question about what does this do for businesses in our industry, is I think the immediate environment is a stress test. It's a capabilities test, and what it did was it threw our disaster recovery plan and our contingency plan straight to the coalface and figure out, do these convert from paper to practice? And I'm delighted, by virtue of the fact that I'm here, I'm delighted to tell you, yes, they work. But beyond this crisis, I think it now turns to ensuring effective operation and in the language of business, I think this is about the immediate, the near-term tactics. What do we do over the next 6 months? And if we have secured or delivered on surviving the crisis, tactically stepping sensibly, we can then talk about strategy. And that would be a 6 months to 3 year perspective.
Yeah, indeed. And I think what you're absolutely so rightly pointing out here is that I think this different way of working is accentuating what we need to do differently. We need to keep that golden thread, that core of our reason for existence, which is to service clients and to manage portfolios on a fiduciary basis for clients. That golden thread remains, but it's the how we are doing this, which I think is where we are fundamentally finding a changing way in the way that we work. So, Stuart, I'd like to ask you, obviously one of the things that we need to be able to do is to have the necessary efficiency in a type of business model where our primary drive was focused on clients, servicing clients, advising clients. And in this remote sort of working environment, we now have to treat customers quite differently in terms of our interaction. What can we do to use the fintech and the opportunities that are available to service our clients better, to service more clients? How do we actually turn this risk, this crisis, into an opportunity in the advice world?
Yeah, thanks, Andrea. I think this crisis is like anything that causes us to have to react quickly. We've had to adopt new approaches during this crisis, which actually we've discovered are good new approaches that we want to continue beyond the crisis coming to an end. I think when you look at the technology that's available now, the impact of this crisis is going to be far less than it would have been, say, 10, 15 years ago, when the ability to do webinars, video calls and everything wasn't just so accessible to everybody. But to answer the question, how can advisors service more clients and continue to provide a good quality of service, then I think historically that is a harder question because you have capacity constraints as an advisor to do the job properly, to do regular reviewing, to do proper rebalancing of portfolios, discussing performances, checking ongoing suitability. These things all take time, and once you've onboarded a client, you may have to see them maybe 3-4 times in a year. So those capacity constraints definitely existed. But I think if we look at the way that we now operate through using video calls, where it's easier to get a hold of sometimes husband and wife, where, if you're going to meet them face to face, that sometimes can be a challenge, especially in my region where sometimes you have, wife and family live in Dubai, husband works in Saudi Arabia. To get everyone together was difficult. But we've been actually managing to have joint calls with customers using the video call technology. And that's made life a lot easier. So I think going forward, we'll use the technology to be able to do better meetings more easily without the need to get in the car or to try and find the time to come to our office. So that will make life a lot better for us. How do you do more clients on top of that, though? I think it's utilising the fintech. There's a lot of good platforms now that we use where the reporting functions for clients are excellent. You can go in and see how portfolios are performing at any time from your phone or from your laptop. And the reporting is very user-friendly. It's very easy to see at a glance how different pots of money are operating, looking at what the current asset allocations look like, looking at the return rates have been over the last period that you can select. So from that perspective, the need to have a deep dive analysis of the performance with the advisor twice a year is less so. It's more about talking big picture because the client can see at any point how things are going. So the education piece for clients to understand how to use that technology will help. But the good thing about this pandemic is that clients as well as advisory firms and wealth managers have had to learn to use the technology too. So they're now comfortable with it, which makes our lives a lot easier. And I think going forward, a lot of my clients will want to continue maybe having regular catches up, whether they're traveling or not, using the new technology. So I think the technology and everyone having to learn it on the client side and the advisor side means that going forward, we will be able to manage more clients. The other thing, just to add on to that, for any advisory firm, you can look after more clients when you take the firm to the client. And a company like us who have in-house tax company, estates, will writing and trust company, it's easier to look after more clients when you're not just yourself. You've got other team members also doing their part in their area of specialism to look after that client holistically. And I find that helps you look after more clients too because they've got multiple points of contact for different needs.
I think that's such a valuable point that you make there, because I think what is very clear for me is that now more than ever, it's going to be the firms and advisors, the ones who will survive and thrive through all of this, are the ones that truly get a client-centric approach. And a client-centric approach will mean also understanding your client well enough to understand what type of engagement, what type of interaction works best for the client. They might have thought that they didn't quite like the technology or an online sort of interaction in the past. Now they might actually realize that this works a lot better than having to travel and meet someone in person and so on. So I think suddenly we need to learn more about our clients in an even different way than it was ever the case in the past. But let's take this back to you, our audience again, and let's open up a second poll for this morning. Because I'd like you to give us an idea of how do you see most client interactions taking place in future. Will it still be face-to-face? Is it going to be just telephonically over the phone? Do you see it as being chat? So, a direct message, a WhatsApp, or whatever the case might be? Or do you see video call being the predominant way in which we will do our client interactions in future? Let me give it a couple of seconds for everyone to give their responses there, and then you can see the live results as they come through. We'll just give it a bit more time for those that have not yet answered. So the question: how do you see most clients' interactions taking place in future? Face-to-face, over the phone, chat, or video call?
Nerina?
Yes.
Am I allowed just to drop in a quick observation on the comments made by Stuart and William?
Sure, please do.
So, I think the question you put to me initially sort of really reinforces to me, and the response of both Stuart and William, is it's not what we do or why we do it, it's how we do it. I don't think our purpose has changed. I don't think our ultimate objective. It's about the how we do it. And one of the things that we will have to wrestle with and resolve as an industry is the importance of the connectedness and the trust, and that social intimacy is a critical component of establishing trust. In the same breath, the part of the business that I spend most of my time on is on the investment side of the business. And on the investment side, what we most hungrily need is deep work. We need to be able to distance from our home environment. We need to be able to get into teams, to dig deep, to have quiet in our heads. And this really challenges that, threatens it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's a good point that you make there, Adrian, because I think it is the why, it is the how we do it, and I think that's exactly where this polling question also goes to. And one of the things that I find interesting in terms of the poll result is that nobody reckons that in future we're going to be doing it via something as simplistic as a chat. And I think that goes to the heart also of the substance in terms of what we are trying to interact and convey to clients in terms of this. And interesting to see that whether it's face-to-face or video call, that a lot of the trust is still embedded in being able to see the person on the other side, sort of look into the whites of his eyes, for example. I do also wonder to what extent the how might differ between whether that it is a new client, so onboarding a new client where there's not an existing relationship, potentially of trust and track record and so on, versus servicing an existing client where you already have a relationship, where you already have had different types of interactions in the past, and where you might find that a lighter touch engagement in future might be good enough. And coming back to, as Stuart already said, for the clients who have already access to a lot of the information that would previously have been shared with a client during such an interaction, means that you can spend more of your time of interaction actually engaging with a client, really understanding where the client is at, where their thinking is at, what their needs are. And for Stuart, I want to go back to you and actually ask you on this count, the role of an advisor in this world that is now suddenly full of fintech on the one side, or the DIY investors, the guys that say, I can do this myself, I don't need an advisor. How do you think advisors can still add value in this age of digitalization and readily available information?
Yeah, and it's a very good question. It's one that has been bandied around a lot during this kind of lockdown period. And I think the key word that you mentioned in the question there is you have to demonstrate value. The job of an advisor is always to demonstrate value, because people can, as you quite rightly say, get access through brokerage platforms and what have you to do DIY investment. But there's a reason why a proper advisor who's had to go and get himself qualified, which takes a lot of time and effort, there's a reason why they've done the exams. They should be able to add value, and beyond just picking some funds or a brokerage platform or trying to get a cheap passive option or something like that. The advisor's job is to really see the big picture, understand everything that is available, understand your circumstances, take the emotion out of things, and actually bring a clarity to you, and dare I say it, challenge clients' decision making sometimes when you can see them doing something that you can see will be detrimental to what they're trying to achieve. And sometimes you really do need to have the industry knowledge in order to do that. An example of my company to take in a different direction is, a lot of our clients that come to us who historically done some DIY stuff, if they continue with what they're doing and they're about to move back to the UK or something, and they don't take proper tax advice, then they're going to come really unstuck. I mean, they're going to get massive tax bills because they don't understand the complexities of tax in relation to those investments. They don't understand the different wrappers that you can use to put investments inside that can protect you from tax. And the advisor's job is really to look at the big picture, look beyond just picking your funds, but actually help you understand that, when we have times like now, where people have seen a lot of drops in March and then the rally that happened in April, we've seen a lot of behaviours in clients or prospects that have come to us for second opinions, where people do what people do, which is they panic sell at the wrong time. And if you've got a trusted advisor that understands how these things work and that these things are cyclical, then they can talk you through your options and make you see things a different way. They can prevent you from doing things which will harm the good work you might have done historically. So I like when people want to have an input into investment, but I also think that we've protected so many people from making bad mistakes that it just demonstrates to me on a regular basis that if you're a properly qualified advisor who do have in-house expertise, things like tax, estates, trusts and wills, then you can add a huge amount of value, because value is key. People will pay the fees to have an advisor when they demonstrate value.
Absolutely, and I think the readily available data and information often tend to be more of a generic nature. So sort of the broad, the fund performance or what's inside a particular fund or whatever. But where the advisor really comes in is that personalized link, really understanding the client and providing that direct link between what the client's needs and objectives are and how to best match that, not just to fund selection, but I think also to behavior, to invest, to withdraw, and of course then those incredibly important aspects such as tax, such as estate planning and so on that goes into it. So when speaking of this availability of data and information, which there seems to be a plethora of, how is Refinitiv responding to the demands of your clients in this increasingly digital world? And here I'm speaking of your clients both as advisors as well as asset managers.
Thank you. Yes, that's an interesting one. It's something we'd actually been sort of investing in before the crisis, and I think the crisis has just sort of accelerated everything, the path we're on. And I think some of the points Adrian made about social intimacy and building trust and things like that, that can be done through a good experience. And what we're trying to do is sort of improve the experience for both the investor and the advisor and to bring the two together. I think Stuart made a very good point about this sort of hybrid approach where you want to give the information to your end investors, but you also that self-serve side doesn't really work. And so you need to have the advisor to sort of add the extra value, understand the big picture. But we did some research and found that actually a lot of advisors were finding this quite tough to do because of the extra regulatory constraints they have all of the reporting they do, things like this. And I think Stuart sort of talked through a lot of the different aspects that we had, onboarding, suitability, rebalancing. And actually, we did some research that found that most advisors, when they log in the morning, log into 8 separate products that don't talk to each other, they don't have any links. And so, for example, we were speaking to an advisor that managed to get their clients' positions and holdings the night before, and then they had market data from us, but the two weren't actually linked. And so if their client called them up one day, they couldn't actually tell them what the exact position of the portfolio was at that time, something that is even more important as the markets become more volatile. So one of the things we've done is actually we've created what we call a client data layer to link all of the different tools together. So we're not going to try to replicate a CRM or anything like this, but to bring in information from the CRM for financial planning tools, how to weigh assets, portfolio management tools, bring them into a single place, link them with the market data so that you can sort of get a 360 view of your client and really give that personalized, but sort of free up the advisor's time to give that personalized aspect to it. And also to then actually take some of that data, the subset that you'd like to show to your clients, display it on a website with widgets, and go back to what Stuart was saying, which is, give some information to the clients so that when they come to you, the clients are coming to you with questions about how you can add value rather than just sort of questions about, okay, what does my portfolio look like today? So yes, sort of linking it all in, and I guess that hybrid model enabling the advisors to sort of add value to the investors through digitalization.
That's very much sort of from the advisor side, but Adrian, from the asset management side of the industry as well, this availability and increased focus on fintech has certainly had an impact on the asset management industry as well. And I think some of those have been good, some of those might have been bad, and there might even have been some ugly things that have come out. How do you see the impact, the good and the bad and the ugly, of fintech in the world of asset management in particular?
Marina, our business is, I guess, a melting pot in that we have the investment component and we have the wealth management, the client component. And they have very different needs. I think they face different challenges. And tech potentially impacts each of them in different ways. For example, on the wealth management side, you've already asked a couple of questions about how do we meet, how do we connect. On the investment management side, there is a growing body of evidence that says machines do better than people. And to me, the challenge to both sides of the business will be about leaping the chasm. And I'm not sure we've got the luxury of time of just slowly swimming the river and figuring our way out. I think it was Stuart that made the point that this crisis came quickly, and it doesn't give you the luxury of time to sort of work out. Sorry, it was William who made the point. To work out how you respond, and the CTO is actually the coronavirus technology officer. That is to me captures how we've been thrown in, and we're going to have to work out quite quickly. What I wonder is whether the convergence will not come from the other side. In other words, it's not going to be it will be a case of tech coming to us rather than us going to tech. Keeping in mind, that tech is tech hasn't solved everything. If we're going to land a plane in a crisis, I think I want some human intervention still. We were speaking about this before today's webinar. The importance of the very, very high touch and the granularity. The danger would be to throw the baby out with the bathwater And for that reason, I wouldn't argue that it's going to be tech or touch. I think it is tech and touch.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think one of the terms that really sort of came to the fore for me during this lockdown and the pandemic period has been speed over elegance. And in terms of the luxury, as you call it, that we do not have the luxury of time to be able to come with a perfect response. And I think that's where tech is very useful in being able to accelerate the response that we can come with. But I think a big part of the elegance still comes from the human touch, from the human advisor, from the expertise, the skill, the understanding that comes from the human in terms of that.
Yeah, you know, and where tech will battle, for instance. Oh, sorry. Can I go? Where tech will battle, for instance, is in your earlier point about if it's a first-time client. Forget about a first-time client. How do you find a new client through tech? You know, that might be through word of mouth and virally. But if you're building a business from brand new and you're trying to source new people, new faces, tech comes with a set of challenges that are difficult to solve.
Absolutely, and Adrian, it goes directly to one of the questions that's already been posed. So I'm gonna pose it right now, and not wait until the Q&A session at the end. But the question that came through is exactly that: any ideas, network, and meet new prospective clients in a virtual world? And Stuart, I'm going to throw this to you and see, you know, sort of what thoughts have you got around how can advisors actually use this new tech world to try and replace what would have been done with networking in the past in terms of sourcing new clients? Stuart, I'm not sure if you can. Yeah,
was that for me?
Go for it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, Stuart.
It's an interesting one, and it's one that it's been discussed quite a lot within my company. And what we've been doing a lot of is webinars. And the webinars have been on a business focus, whether it be tax or, you know, investment or things like that. But we're thinking about how can we do webinars where it's maybe a human interest element. So even if it's something like we're going to get an expert on to talk about wine, you know, for those who want to attend a discussion on wine, or whether it be on investment properties, or whether it be on, you know, any subject that we think people would be interested in, and give them the ability to speak or send in comments when the main speaker's talking, so that people can interact that way. But it is definitely challenging. But, you know, within my own team, we have two team meetings a week now. We've got the normal team meeting, and then we have a social team meeting on the Thursday night, which is the start of our weekend in the Middle East. And on that meeting, we just talk about how people are feeling in general, and have a drink, and then a chat with everybody in a social way. So it's about how we can kind of interact that with, from a client perspective, is what we're looking at right now.
I think that's such a valuable insight that you give us there, where I think the two big benefits of things like webinars is that you demonstrate the thought leadership content that you can bring to the table. So I think it certainly goes a long way towards demonstrating trust, the skill, the expertise to potential clients. But I think the other massive benefit, of course, is that networking in person meant that you actually had to physically be able to attend a particular event at a certain time or a certain place. Whereas in an online world, not only can you actually promote or advertise access to such a webinar in a much more cost-effective way, but also the participation in such a webinar reaches an audience that you would not otherwise have been able to reach. So as much as this online world presents real challenges for advisors in terms of networking and finding new clients, I think it also represents great opportunity that can be brought to the party in terms of this as well. And I think one of the themes that we've seen come through this morning's discussion has been around this idea of a hybrid model, this idea that it's not an all or nothing world. And I think a collaborative or a hybrid model where where the digital experience and the human touch of the advisor complement each other, that really can be a win-win scenario for both providers and users of financial and investment services. So let's go back to our audience. Let's put up another poll and say, what do you believe is the best way for wealth firms to grow and survive? Will it be to target new segments? Would it be to offer differentiated products? Or would it be an acquisition route, a merger and acquisition, M&A type of route of other existing advisor firms, or even just bringing in specific advisors, buying in a book into your organization? So over to the audience, how do you think wealth firms can best grow and survive in the post-COVID world? I love these early results as they come through, which is just like, you know what, it's across the board. And isn't this what makes a market? Isn't it great that not everybody has the same view, the same opinion, the same approach to solving this? And this actually excites me when I see results such as this, where there's actually a very good balance between how we can do it. Because quite frankly, I think all three of those ways are valid ways in which a firm can grow and survive in the current perspective. And I think more than anything, it will depend on where you currently stand as a firm and as an advisor, which of those three options would be most appropriate in your specific area of looking at it. Adrian, maybe coming back to you then again, can you give us some examples of how asset managers have successfully embraced fintech to grow their business in particular? And I think specifically here my focus is on the investment process rather than on the advice side of the business.
Nerina, this question was preloaded, so I've had the
Adrian,
advantage.
Can you hear us?
I've got you.
Looks like Adrian might be a bit experiencing some technical difficulties. So I think while we wait for Adrian to join us live again, Stuart, I'm then going to come back to you and maybe just pose the question in a slightly different way and say that as much as things have changed in the last 3 months, there's a lot that has not changed. What of these changes that we've seen over the last 3 months do you think is likely to be permanent in a post-COVID-19 world?
Yeah, thank you. It's a very good question because, one of the things that we've discussed even at board level is that there's no such thing for us as going back to normal. We're going back to a new normal because what this experience has done is forced companies to have to evolve maybe faster than they initially had planned. And I know that in our business, for example, a number of things that were scheduled for quarter one next year or quarter two will be pulled forward to be done before the end of this year and some of it immediately. So I think, there's going to be a lot of permanent change. Things that will change, obviously, as already mentioned, the use of technology now is going to be far more prevalent than it was before. And as I've already maybe mentioned, webinars over seminars. When you're covering a region like I am, it's very difficult to get sizable numbers at a seminar, and the cost of hotels in Dubai is quite high as well. So the costs involved in running these seminars and the attendance levels that you get is being blown into the weeds by the attendance numbers that we get on webinars and the far reach that we get because we get people logging in from all over the region, which is otherwise it was difficult for them to get access to some of the content that we were doing last year. So that certainly was something that we will continue to focus on, and that will change things. The face-to-face elements, and to get back to comments that we made, instead of seminars, we will do more client events, which is the more touchy-feely things, like kind of experience things like client dinners, golf days, things like that. We would invite clients to bring someone along who's not a client, and that's the way we can meet more clients as well. And that allows us to grow that social relationship with the clients as well. I think that's something that we'll focus on going forward on the face-to-face side rather than doing educational seminars because we can do that on the web. And I think other things that have changed with what's going on in the market, I think everyone's now going to have to understand what their strategy is when we hit downtimes. A lot of people I speak to in the industry who maybe in the industry for 10 or 12 years have only known bull market. And for a lot of them, this shock of going through a period of turbulence with potential bear market to come out of that, they're not ready for it. And a lot of our clients aren't ready for it. They're not used to it. And a lot of people who maybe haven't been doing a great job have kind of got away with it over the years because kind of everything was going north. When things go through a difficult period, that's when you show your skill and your value as an advisor. So I think going forward, people will need to have more deeper understanding of risks involved. I know that in the private banking space, a lot of people have had margin calls recently, and I think that's something that they won't have enjoyed. And sometimes just looking at the potential upside and not bearing too much mind to the downside, you then get a very sharp reality check when the downside happens. So I think people will need to be a little bit more cautious than they've been in the past. Make sure clients properly understand the risk exposure that they have. Make sure that risk is regularly reviewed in relation to their objectives, and that people understand what can happen when it goes down, and therefore don't panic and make bad decisions. So that's from my side. I think things that will definitely change. A lot of positive in those changes. A lot of forcing evolution that needed to happen. And yeah, I think it'll be back to a new normal.
Yeah, you know what? I think maybe some of the excessive focus only on performance also, I think, will be less so in future, and much more focus on behavior and really from an advice perspective, guiding the client through what is relevant and appropriate for them. And that's certainly a change which I think can only be for the benefit of everyone, both the industry as well as our clients as well. Adrian, I'd like to come back to you just to sort of ask in terms of giving us some of the examples of where you've seen asset management firms embracing fintech in the business and specifically from the perspective of the investment process.
Sure. Nerina, when I was responding a little earlier, my comment was you had preloaded this question, so I've got the advantage of having had a chance to sort of think through this rather than on the fly. And maybe a little bit of it is forward-looking, but some of it is evidence-based. And the forward-looking bit is, to Stuart's comment, is I don't think it's this or that. I think it's both. And in thinking about the both, don't forget old tech. The other day, someone suggested to me for a meeting, can we do Zoom? And it was like with tears in my eyes, please, can we not do Zoom? Can we just have a phone call? So don't forget old tech. And the old tech is, it's telephone, it's TV, it's radio, and it's print, although it might be digital print. But all of those technologies are still very, very relevant and resident. Don't forget them. In thinking about businesses that have transformed then, so the evidence, I'm not going to give you an example. I'm going to cheat. I'm not going to give you an example from the investment industry, but I am going to give you an example from finance. And my role model, my case study, is the Development Bank of Singapore. And Piyush Gupta, who runs DBS, said very often the mistake is made in trying to digitize businesses. We put lipstick on the pig. And you land up with the exact same business with a bit of digital. It's all of the same problems. It's all of the old DNA. It is as broken as it was before. It's just had a lick of paint. And so I think our industry to a business is going to be stress tested here on the relevance and effectiveness of our models, not just the platforms that we're sitting on. So one component is about the digitization and making sure it's electronic, it's deliverable, that we can retain the high trust, communication, that it's scalable, that the solutions are effective. But all of this has to be relevant. If it doesn't fit our purpose, and our purpose, speaking for my own business, our purpose is to look after assets that preserve wealth and grow wealth. that's our purpose, and we want to do it one client at a time. So I think that those are the two things, and there's a tension between them. Our industry is going to have to learn things. For instance, a 72-hour sprint. Now investment managers or wealth managers are going to have to learn to sprint. And Piyush Gupta locks his teams up for 72 hours, gives them beer, ping pong tables, mattresses, and says, I'll see you in 72 hours. Here's the problem. And to me, that's a great example of how he's taken a 20,000 employee business, very much paper-based. He said it was like an old-fashioned post office that he's inherited. And in the most recent financial year, they added 600 to headcount. And of the 600 headcount, 500 were programmers and coders.
I think that's so powerful, Adrian, because I think what I would least like to see is that we waste this crisis. This really is an opportunity to fundamentally reassess what we do, not just how we do it, but the why. Why do we do it? And I think maybe that's also why I'm encouraged by the fact that in our last poll, that the majority response said that the best way for wealth firms to grow and survive is to offer different products, because I think for too long, what we've been offering were products that suited the firm, that suited the industry in terms of what it was doing there, but it wasn't necessarily the right type of products or solutions for the clients. And that's why this is a wonderful opportunity for us to reassess, to rethink, and not just, as you so aptly put it, put lipstick on the pig. We've got a wonderful question that relates exactly to that. The question says, this pandemic has forced wealth firms to ramp up spending on tech. How do you see this playing out post the pandemic? Do you see wealth firms leaping ahead of other industries? So never mind within the industry, but that we as an industry actually leaps ahead of other industries. William, I'm going to pose this question to you, and I think maybe from the Refinitiv perspective, how do you see wealth firms ramping up not just their spending and use of tech, but really using this to leapfrog potentially some other industries as well?
Yeah, I think you make a really good point, which is to the sort of leapfrog piece that actually, I think as an industry, we were probably behind a lot of other industries. And so we've actually been catching up in the first instance. And now looking ahead, I also really like some of the points that you've made about, putting lipstick on a pig, that a lot of companies said they wanted to digitize, but they didn't actually know what that meant or how they were doing it. So it's an interesting one. As an industry, I think we'll have, as always, some players that will sort of race ahead, but others that either because they don't know how or held back by legacy infrastructure and systems and things like that are going to struggle to sort of keep moving ahead. So I think the investment in tech is going to continue, and but I really want to go back to Adrian's point, which is that it needs to be meaningful and actually sort of add value. And that's something we're seeing in other areas, whereas in some areas we are just seeing people that are spending a lot of money just to sort of keep the lights on, and that really have to sort of build almost from scratch.
Great stuff. Some more questions coming through, but please do pose your questions. We've got a few minutes left, so I'm going to move on to the next question that I've got here. And Stuart, I think I'm going to ask this one from you. How is the investment advisory industry adapting for both a younger investor but also for an aging investor? So how is the industry adapting to two quite different, potentially different client profiles?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think the kind of quick answer for the younger investors is they are very tech savvy. They've grown up in a world where technology's been at their fingertips since since I would pick up a crayon when I was a kid. So they like the technology, they like using apps, they like to have information, and they want it yesterday. So I think that the industry needs to be targeting those segments with exciting and interesting ways of interacting with them to get them interested in finance in a positive way. get them involved in using the technology, help them understand how it can add value to them, but then ultimately making sure that you use your experience to pass over, important messages and learns to these people, so they understand what it means to take investment risk, for example. They don't just go for, what is the kind of flavour of the month, because quite often in that, you see a lot of that in younger investors, and quite often when that's the case, that ship's already sailed. With the older investors, it's about keeping it relevant for them, and it's about not running away with technology and blinding them with science, and then they basically will go cold because you've lost them. So it's about making sure that you get the balance right with them, continuing with the face-to-face comfort that they often want. They like their traditions, giving them a sense of, things are evolving. It's an evolution, not a revolution. They're not being left behind, but helping them to embrace some of the new technology too, and taking the time to make sure that they genuinely understand how to use it, and complementing the old ways of doing things.
Yeah, very good, very good. Adrian, next question I'm going to pose to you, because I think it talks to two aspects that you do quite well in your career. So the question is, how important is an online presence for wealth advisor managers, given that this could be the new norm of finding clients? And more importantly, will this affect the training the industry now receives going forward? So you've got a very good and strong social media presence, but at the same time, you are also a lecturer. So over to you. How do you see this affecting the way that we maybe prepare for a career in the industry in future?
And Nerina, I'll be cheeky and I'll say, ask the Kardashians or Kylie Jenner. If that's the market that's coming at us, we better be prepared for it. I don't think that you can ignore or avoid digital or social and media presence. Having said that, we need to be careful about what we mean by wealth management. And if wealth management is looking after ultra high net worth individuals, family offices, then arguably this plays a far smaller role. But if this looks after more of a rump of a market or an emerging younger market, then I think it's a completely different answer. So I'd be cautious about a one size fits all. I think we have to figure out who it is that we're talking to, and then we can position appropriately for that. I'll make the same point about this as I would about tech. Big tech can build you or break you. A great media presence can either be great or it can be disastrous.
It's not just about doing it. You've actually got to make sure that you understand why you're doing it and where it fits into your unique value proposition, either as an individual advisor or as a Well, I think we've got just a few minutes left for some closing remarks, maybe before we close this up. Stuart, I'm going to start with you. Any final thoughts that you would like to share with the audience this morning?
Hi. I think for me, it's about taking the learns from this experience, and as you said earlier, not wasting it. Take what we've learned from this and make sure that we make the changes that are required going forward. I think there's a lot of things to be optimistic about, and we have to stay optimistic. And we need to remember the market's based on feeling, and we need to make sure that we do our part to keep the confidence in the market going, and learn the lessons that need to be learned.
Absolutely. William, closing remarks from your side.
No, I think Stuart's put it very well. And yes, I think just to re-emphasize the idea that digitalizing is great. This has accelerated it, which I think has been a great opportunity. But as you've said a couple of times, Nerina, not to waste it, and to make sure that when we're digitalizing, we're adding value and enhancing what we already have.
Awesome. Adrian, closing thoughts from you?
Nerina, I would suggest that the anguish in our industry has been for a long time. Tech is coming to eat our lunch, and we imagined that it was coming in the form of a robo-advisor. Well, the robots didn't come, something else came, and it has disrupted us spectacularly. And that disruption, your point of earlier, is going to, I think it will challenge and sink those that aren't able to adapt. It will strengthen others. And I imagine that it's going to reinvent aspects of this industry, that when we meet again in a year or 5 years' time, we will be talking about a completely different environment.
Absolutely. Well, in closing from my side, I think for me, 3 key takeaways. The first is, let's not waste a good crisis. The second one is, don't put lipstick on a pig. But I think the third one, most importantly, tech has allowed us to accelerate and to change the how and the what we do. But as individuals, I would like us to focus on the why. Why are we doing what we are doing, and make sure that how and what we do is consistent with our big why. And the big why ultimately always has to be, what am I doing for the client? After all, it is the client's money. So how do I ensure that I do right by my client? Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Thank you to my 3 panelists for an engaging discussion, for sharing their insights. Thank you to Refinitiv for hosting this opportunity for us. And I wish you all strength and fortitude in moving forward. And may we end up in a much better place in future than the one that we came from. Thank you.